Well, this week, South Korea held its first ever summit with African countries, 48 of which participated in the leaders' meeting and business summit. For a recap of the major achievements and a closer look at the significance of the summit, we're joined by our presidential office correspondent, Oh Soo-young, once again. Welcome back, Sooyoung.
It's great to be here, Yujin.
So, Sooyoung, starting off, one of the key takeaways was the agreement to establish a critical minerals dialogue between Korean and African countries. So, I want to ask you, what is the significance of cooperating on critical minerals?
Well, that's a great question, Yujin. It's significant for both countries because starting with South Korea, its foremost high-tech industries, namely semiconductors, depend on a stable supply of core minerals like copper, iron ore, nickel, lithium, and cobalt. Semiconductors make up 20% of Korea's exports, which in turn accounted for roughly 86% of last year's economic growth, according to the Korea International Trade Association. However, as of 2022, Korea has only 36 mineral mines compared to the nearly 2,000 in the United States and 134 in Japan. That's why establishing a critical minerals dialogue with Africa was a key achievement, along with bilateral memorandums of understanding on critical mineral cooperation with Tanzania and Madagascar. Zimbabwe and Liberia are also looking to work together in the field. Now it's a win-win partnership as South Korea would provide investment and job opportunities in African countries, which hold around 30% of the world's critical mineral reserves. Amid the geopolitical rivalry, of course, to tap into these resources, South Korea really stands out as it would not simply extract them, but it would help the industry grow sustainably in these fields.
Right, and on that note, South Korea signed deals to assist development in other respects. Now, Sooyoung, you covered the multilateral meeting for us, and now the bilaterals have also wrapped up, right?
Yes, exactly. So beyond the multilateral joint statement, President Yoon Suk-yeol held bilateral summits with 25 African nations to work on more customized measures for cooperation. Seoul will help develop infrastructure, including roads, rail, ports, and smart cities in countries like Ghana, Lesotho, and Rwanda. It signed deals on procuring clean energy sources to help power the growth of African industries. And to strengthen food security, Korea will share knowledge and technology to upgrade farming and agriculture. Now, this includes cultivating high-quality rice for its so-called K-Rice Belt project in Madagascar, Sierra Leone, and Guinea-Bissau. Now, cooperation on maritime security, fisheries, digital technology, and human resources training as well would help countries like Mauritania and Mozambique develop their industrial capacity and productivity. Also, based on Korea's own experience of developing from one of the world's poorest countries to an economic powerhouse, its Semaul or New Village movement will be shared with countries like Equatorial Guinea and the Central African Republic. To help drive progress in these areas, Seoul agreed to pursue trade and investment frameworks for 6 countries and inked a trade cooperation MOU with the 54-member African Union. Now, it also plans to provide $14 billion in export financing to Korean firms over the next 6 years to encourage business in Africa. And President Yoon has said Korea will continue to expand foreign aid or official development assistance to $10 billion by 2030 as a catalyst for cooperation projects with Africa. Now, that's more than double the country's total ODA budget this year, which was $4.8 billion.
Right, so that aligns with shared growth and sustainability, which were the themes of the summit, as well as solidarity too.
That's right. So both South Korean and African countries face regional and global challenges to their security and growth. And Seoul is a major contributor to UN peacekeeping missions and supports efforts for peace by the African Union amid internal conflicts and violence across the continent. Meanwhile, for South Korea, working with Africa is really crucial as it has 54 votes in the United Nations, which is more than any other continent. And around 40% of the UN Security Council's agendas are related to Africa. Now, as South Korea serves a non-permanent term in the Security Council, there is a great need for cooperation on these issues as well as issues of Korea's own interest.
In order for us to take the lead in the shaping discussions on the peace and security on the Korean Peninsula as well as around the world, we need support from African countries. Korea aspires to become a global people state, which actively harnesses Korea's growing, strengthening, and capability in advancing freedom, peace, and prosperity in the international community. So we recognize the importance of the supporting African leadership and ownership in securing sustainable peace in Africa. Korea is committed to strengthening the capacity of the African Union and regional organizations. The Korean government has contributed over $18 million since 2016 to support the AU peace and security activities.
Countries like the United States, Japan, China and Russia have already been holding summits with Africa, so we are a little late to the game. However, you can't help but notice the very high turnout of 48 countries. Now, that's all the African Union countries, excluding the 6 that are currently suspended after military coups took over their governments.
I believe that the very reason African nations are attending this summit is because African countries are expressing their steadfast trust and gratitude towards South Korea.
With 33 heads of state having travelled to the summit, there was high anticipation for building stronger relations with South Korea, shown by the sheer volume of the bilaterals held on the side. This summit aimed to set the institutional framework for the cooperation to really take off, with various dialogue mechanisms such as an agriculture and economic cooperation. And a foreign ministerial meeting will be held in 2 years' time to evaluate the progress made by that point. And, well, we're really going to have to see what happens. But as President Yoon said, the summit takes Korea-Africa relations to a new level as they seek to face and overcome shared challenges together.
All right, thanks for your report today, Sooyoung. We really appreciate it this week as well.
All right, thanks for having me in studio.